Hey guys, welcome to the Mo Tech Sales YouTube channel. I'm Maury, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the sales development terms that you must know. And if you're somebody you're studying to become a sales development representative, or you're taking the course careers for tech sales and you're looking for study material, then that's the reason why I created this video. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to like the video if you found it helpful. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. If you haven't already and you're looking to break into tech sales, I highly recommend checking the link down below. There is a free careers course that you can take and it talks about what tech sales is, why you should break into it, and how to break into tech sales. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the video. So here's a list of all the sales development terms that you need to know, along with the definitions. So the first word that we have is an account. An account contains all the records of customers' interactions, including contact information, preferred services, transactions with your business. And an account is created after the first time a customer buys from your business. So, like for example, if you open up an account with a bank, then they will have all your information, like your name, your email, your phone number, your address, and things like that. So that's what is called an account. Next, we have an account executive, also known as a AE, also known as a closer. So essentially, all of these words have the same meaning. A account executive is a sales team member in charge of closing deals by converting qualified leads into buying customers. So they are the closers. They go through the hard objections. They understand the technology. They have to ask those discovery questions. They're the ones that have to do the demo. And ultimately, they're the ones that have to follow up and close the deal. Next, we have an account manager. An account manager, also known as a AM or a farmer. So an account manager is a sales team member in charge of managing and upselling existing clients and accounts. So for example, the company that I work for has account managers, and their job is to simply go through clients' accounts and see if they're going to need to be upgrading soon. Their job is to also resell them on higher ticket products. So in my personal opinion, being an account executive is a little more stressful than being an account manager, because being an account manager, you're trying to convince them to buy a product or service that they don't have. An account manager, however, is simply in charge of convincing an already existing customer to upgrade. And study shows that if somebody buys from you one time, then they'll buy from you again, especially if they enjoy the product or service that you sold to them. All right, so next we have annual recurring revenue, which is the amount of money a customer pays you every year on a subscription model. So this is very important in tech sales, because most of the tech sales software is reoccurring, and that's why it's so lucrative, guys, because they're paying for a service that they're going to need for the long term. So they're going to be reoccurring. That's going to be reoccurring revenue. Next, we have annual contract value, which is also known as ACV, which is the annual contract value, which is the average annualized revenue per customer contract. So a ACV is usually compared against customer lifetime value to see how long it takes to pay back the cost of acquiring the customer. So for example, when I went door to door, I would get a commission every time I would sign up somebody for the service. So that commission size was simply based off of how much they projected that the customer would spend over time. Because the service that I was selling was actually a reoccurring month. It was a monthly subscription. So pretty much it's the value, it's the amount of money that they paid for that customer acquisition, aka customer sign up, versus how much that customer is projected to spend over the lifetime, over that customer's lifetime of having that service. For each company, it just depends. Like, for example, I work for a web hosting company, and they have a projected customer lifetime based off of how long they expect a customer to have a website and how long they expect the customer to use their software. Next, we have an account-based selling. An account-based selling is a strategy where the entire company coordinates to pursue high-value clients or accounts. The departments that are the most typically involved in account-based selling are sales, representative, marketing employees, as well as customer success. And I say that, that is put there: sales, which is generating revenue. Marketing is a form of generating revenue, and customer success is a form of generating revenue. So that's why they play a very big role in account-based selling. All right. Next, we have a business development representative. So, my personal opinion, there is a difference between a sales development representative and a business development representative. A business development representative is more so on the outbound side. So they're in charge of making calls, sending out emails, sending out social messages on LinkedIn. So they're more so on the outbound side. A sales development representative is on the inbound. So that's my job for the company that I work for. I'm an SDR, a sales development representative, meaning that I'm in charge of qualifying inbound prospects and leads. Inbound is when they come to you. So, for example, instead of me calling them, they're calling me. I answer the phone and I determine if they qualify for our product or service. I answer chats. We have chats that come in, aka new potential leads that come in, and my job is to simply ask qualifying questions in order to see if that lead qualifies for a call with the account executive, which is right here. Okay, so just making sure that we clear that up. But for this definition, and then for the sake of course careers, it's also, as you can see, known as a sales development representative. This representative is a sales specialist focused on finding new prospects and, finding new prospects, establishing foundational relationships, and updating the sales pipeline with new leads. So I guess this definition does match, but there is sales development representative is a little bit different than business development representative. Next, moving on. We have B2B, business to business, is essentially selling is when a client sells or the company can sell business to business. Normally, when you're working for a tech company as a sales development representative, you're 9 times out of 10 going to be working B2B. Next, we have business to consumers, which is selling business to consumers, which is B2C. And then also to mention, B2C, business to consumer, is normally one of those transactions that can be done within one call. Like, for example, when I went door to door selling water, That was for sure B2C because I was expected to convince people to buy water and close the sale right then and there at the door. It wasn't no, oh, let me get your email and follow up with you later. No. But most of the time, B2C is closing at a lower revenue value than B2B. B2B is more so a longer transaction. It's more of relationship building. It's a longer sales process, which 9 times out of 10 is going to require more work, and it's going to come at a high ticket commission. So they're going to be spending more money. It's a higher risk, but it's a lot of commitment, and it's potentially a lot of money that you can make. Next, we have a business unit, which is a group of people representing a specific, let me move my little face, but they're representing a specific department or product within a company, such as accounting or manufacturing. And that kind of plays within the organizational structure, which we go over later on in this video. Next, I'm trying to move my little face out the way, guys. Okay, next we have the buyer's persona, which a buyer's persona is a representation of the ideal customer for your business. Companies create buyer personas based off of market research and data about existing customers. Having a buyer's persona in mind is important for marketers creating a target audience and for sales development representatives or sales representatives qualifying leads. So essentially, I like to think of buyer persona as people that they pretty much would benefit the most off of the product or service that you have, and they will be the ones that would spend that money on that product or service. So when I think about buyer's persona, I'm thinking who in that company has the money, has my money, like who can benefit the most off of the product or service and has the money to pay for it. Buying signals. This can be verbal or non-verbal buying cues that shows if a customer is ready to make a purchase, such as signing up for a free trial or asking about contract specifics. So picking up on these signals can help a sales representative better focus their attention on the customers that are giving off more buying signals. So this is something that it takes more of actually going through an experience, because sometimes it's hard to read somebody's nonverbal body language over the computer. Like even when you're on the call and you're having like a Zoom face-to-face call with them, yeah, I mean, you can look at their microfacial expressions and even listen to how they're answering the questions. There's certain signs that you can pick up. But I find that it's a lot easier when you're actually face to face with them in person. But again, this is tech sales. Everything will most likely be online. But as you get more experience, you'll be able to listen out for those verbal and nonverbal cues just based off of their micro facial expressions that you're seeing on this screen and that their camera is showing you, as well as listening to how they're answering questions. Like if they don't seem so excited, and you can kind of tell just listening to their fluctuations and in their pitch and in their tonality. Okay, we have C-level, C-suite. This is the highest level of executives. C stands for chief, like chief executive officer. So yeah, champion. We all love champions. Champions is a prospect within the company that wants to purchase your product or service and is willing to do anything and everything they can to help convince the other people in the company to make that purchase. So you always want to develop or get a champion on your side, because they will honestly do the convincing for you. So this comes into play whenever you're on a maybe a meeting call or a discovery call. This having a champion on your side really results in you being able to explain why they need the product or service in a way that gets that person excited, and that way they can really be able to effectively explain to the people that were not in the meeting, the other people, the other employees that have a say so on if they get the product or service or not. The champion needs to be able to explain the benefits and why they should get that product or service to their fellow peers. So that's going to be based off of how you explain and answer their questions that they have, and how you do the demonstration, and how you walk them through the process of figuring out, what their pain points are and what their challenges are in positioning your product or service as the best solution. So when you have a champion in the deal, or in working in the works deal, it just makes the interaction a lot better, because they will do that hard selling for you. Okay, next we have a channel partner, which is a person or company that offers services and products on behalf of another company. So for example, the company that I work with, we do have a partnership program, and I have encountered some people that will come in and say, hey, we've already partnered with the hosting company that I work with, and we want to let our clients know, and we want to give them discounts based off of our partnership program that we're a part of already with the company that, with the WordPress company, or with the hosting company that I work for. So, yeah. Okay, next we have the channel sales, which is focusing on different sales channels, such as in-house sales. We have the channel sales focus on different sales channels, such as a in-house sales team. We have realtors, and then referrals and dealers. All right, next we have churn. Churn is the percentage of clients that leave or stop using the product or service within a certain amount of time. So normally you can tell if you have a good product or service based off of your churn percentage. If your churn percentage is high, that may mean that there's something wrong with your product or service that is making clients want to go to your competition. So that could be customer support. That could be just your product or service sucks. So this is like a company thing. You can gauge how well your product or service is going to do in the long term based off of your churn percentage. So the whole entire goal is to have a very low churn percentage, because that's going to result in customer loyalty. So normally it's a correlation. If a company has high company loyalty, then they have low percentage of churn rate. Okay, closing ratio. A closing ratio is the number of deals closed compared to the number of engaged prospects. This ratio can be used to evaluate the performance of an individual sales rep, as well as forecast that sales rep's performance. So it's always important to have a very high close ratio, because that's going to directly determine how well you perform. Okay, clients are already closed opportunity. They're already paying customers and people that your account manager should be taking care of. So as an account executive, scroll back up here. As an account executive, your job is to get as many clients as possible in order to assign them to a account manager. Next, we have a closer. Now, if you remember, we talked about closer. Closer is another word for account executive and a AE. It's all the same thing. So a closer is an account executive and they are focused on closing deals and they only prospect a small number of strategic accounts. Cold call. Cold call is a huge task, a huge duty and responsibility that a sales development or a business development representative will do. So I'm scrolling back up to remind you. A cold call is something that business development representatives do. It's part of their responsibility. So a cold call is an attempt to engage with a prospect that you don't yet have a relationship with on a call. So cold call, you're just calling them up saying, hey, John, I'm Maury, I'm with blah, blah, blah company and da, 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 da. I'm not going to go through the whole entire script, but in order to be a sales development representative, you need to know what a cold call is and have a script that makes sense, that is clear, concise, that has structure and, things like that. A cold call email is similar to a cold call, but the only difference is it's an email, so it's written out. So you attempt to engage with a prospect via email, sending a sales proposal to someone that you don't yet have a relationship with. That's why it's cold. It's out of the blue. Cold pretty much means you never talked to this person before. This person is a stranger, and you're going out of your way to reach out to them. Okay, next we have customer acquisition costs. This is kind of similar to what we talked about earlier. This relates to the annual contract value, which is kind of part of the customer acquisition costs. So every time you acquire a new client, that 9 times out of 10 is costing the company, right? So that can be via marketing. Like, for example, the company that I work for, they have a whole marketing team. They have a whole marketing budget that is like their whole duty is to drive possible leads to the sales department team, right? And that comes at a cost. Same thing for selling cars. The people that walked in, 9 times out of 10, they were marketed to. They saw maybe a commercial, maybe a social media ad. So there's a lot of money that goes into marketing in order to acquire new leads, new prospects. So that comes at a cost. So like I said already, it's the cost of acquiring new paying clients. Customer lifetime value, which is known as a CLV, which is also known as a lifetime value. A lifetime value is the total lifetime value of one client in terms of the revenue they'll bring before they churn. So that's, like I said, that's related to this terminology that we talked about, which is part of the annual contract value. So customer lifetime value is pretty much them kind of guessing how much that customer is worth over a lifetime before they leave and want to go to another company. Okay. Next, we have a customer relationship manager, also known as a CRM, which is huge in tech sales. It's a software or a internet-based service that helps business owners and sales professionals manage their sales pipeline and track prospects and related activity through the sales cycle. So pretty much every tech company has a customer relationship manager. I mean, at this point, if you don't have a customer relationship manager and you're a tech company, then I don't know what you're doing. But at this point, everybody has a customer relationship manager. Even when I worked at the dealership, they have Drive Centric, which is essentially like our Salesforce. Okay, next we have customer success, which is pretty much a strategy or a proactive mindset that helps reduce churn rates and increase customer satisfaction with a product or service that is predictable of recurring revenue. So this can be a role or just a strategy that they use. So for example, for the company that I work for, we actually have customer success representatives, and their whole entire job is to make sure that the customers are satisfied with the product or service, and also make sure that they have the necessary softwares that's going to help them progress in their business and make more money. And this is really done ultimately to reduce that churn rate. Again, like I said earlier, you want to make sure that that churn rate is as low as possible. Okay, so next we have decision maker. Decision maker is the person in charge of making the purchasing decision at the company. So this is very, very important. You need to find out who the decision maker is during the discovery call. This is something that you need to know. So before you even go to the demonstration call, you need to know who is making that ultimate decision. Fortune 500 companies is simply a list of 500 of the largest companies in the US based off of revenue. Gatekeeper. Gotta love the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers is a person that answers the corporate phone and decides to let you talk to the decision maker or not. So I know in course careers, they talk about the gatekeeper and how to be nice and just be upfront, be honest, let them know who you are, and things like that. They teach you how to talk to the gatekeeper. But essentially, if you're a business development representative and you're calling somebody to, you're just doing a cold call, and the number that you got, a gatekeeper answers, and they're not the person you necessarily want to talk to, but you have to talk to them in order to get to the person that you actually want to talk to. Obstacles, I know, but in course careers, they actually teach you how to overcome a gatekeeper. Okay, next we have a ICP, which is an idea customer profile. Is a profile of a ideal client for your business. So you need to know, like, let's say, for example, I work at a hosting company. So essentially, one of my ideal customer profile would be a company that has a WordPress website, right? It would be perhaps maybe a agency that specializes in WordPress website creation, because 9 times out of 10 they're gonna need hosting. So that would be my ideal customer profile. Okay, inbound. Inbound is an interest that comes in via cold email or submitted form. Now, I want to go more into detail with this. This can be a call, a email, and a chat, and then a contact form. We have inbound sales. Sales that happens as a result of customers directly approaching you and engaging with the brand or company. So that's what I was talking about earlier. With the whole sales development representative and business development representative. Sales development representative is more so in the inbound area. So instead of you going to customers, they're coming to you. And that's all good. That's all thanks to the marketing. You see how everything is connected. All right, next we have a lead. We love leads. Someone who is a potential fit to purchase your product or service. So, lead, prospect, kind of the same thing in my eyes, but this is the definition for it. Okay, next we have lead generation is all the activities that have a goal to generate interest around a product or service through different methods. This can be content marketing, this can be pay per click, this can be referrals, this can be outbound marketing and partnerships. So lead generation is very, very important because that's ultimately how you get leads, which is how you're able to set appointments and get sales. So lead generation is one of those things that's super, 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 super important. There are different ways that you can generate leads, but in all, the whole entire point of generating leads is to have leads in order to generate revenue. Okay, lead nurturing is the next step in lead generation. So once you're able to generate leads, then you want to nurture those leads. So that's more so engaging in building long-term relationships with existing prospects. So making sure that you're checking in with them, even if they haven't bought from you guys. Study shows that it takes somebody about 7 to 14, maybe 20 times of you reaching out to them, of them seeing your brand, them seeing your ad, them seeing your some type of representation of you and your product in order for them to register that in their conscious mind. So just really remember that. So most of the time you're going to get most of maybe your sales or being able to close a deal on the third, maybe fourth try of them seeing your company. Next, we have lead qualifications. It's a process of qualifying if a lead is a good fit to purchase your product or service. So going back to my example, I work for a hosting company, and there are times where we get leads that do not qualify to move on to the next sales process. Maybe because they have a generic email, maybe because their website is just not compatible with our hosting. And so me as a sales development representative, I have to determine if they qualify as a lead. So that's a whole nother skill set. And then we have lead scoring, which is assigning a value to every lead based off predefined criteria in order to rank leads in terms of engaging priority. So this is true. We do the same thing at my company that I work for. Depending on what kind of leads that we get, like for example, we'll get some leads that they have a huge website. They are university, and universities get a lot of traffic, a lot of data, a lot of information. So for that big of a website, they're going to need a bigger hosting. They're going to need a bigger server, meaning that's more money. So there are leads that have more priority over other leads. And that's just based off of how much money that the company can make off of that lead. That's essentially what it is. Okay, influencer is someone who has a strong influence over the purchase of a product or service, but isn't the final decision maker. This is key, guys. So when I read this the first time, I honestly thought about when I sold cars. I would be selling a car to somebody and their kid is there, and I would literally see the parent look over at the kid and they're like, "Hey, do you like the car? If you like the car, then I will get the car." And then the kid would say something like, "Yeah, I like the car. I like the seats, blah, 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 blah." But ultimately, they're not the decision maker. They're not the ones that's pulling out that money and paying for the car. So that's the way I was able to distinguish the difference between an influencer and a decision maker. Now, if you're somebody that's watching this video and you're studying to take the course career exam, they do ask you, a question about influencer and decision maker. Do not say that the influencer is the final decision maker, because they're not. They just have a very strong influence on if that product or service gets purchased or not. They're not essentially the decision maker. Okay, so we have a marketing qualified lead. So that's a lead that will most likely become a paying customer based off of the pages that led the visit. So that action, what actions they took on the website and other online engagements. So depending on what company that you work for, you'll probably be able to see how this person landed, maybe in the chats, maybe as a lead for you. And I know not all companies show this, but for example, the company that I work for, when I'm in the chats and a lead comes in, I'm actually able to see how they came into the chat up above. Like, for example, I had a lead that came in today and they are already on the payment plan page. So that lets me know right there, oh, this person is looking to buy. They're more interested in buying, and they may have come to the chat to figure out, if there's any discounts, how can they sign up? So, okay, next we have monthly reoccurring revenue, MRR. This is something that you can look up in Salesforce. So I know, for example, the company that I work for, I know I told you I was going to give y'all a lot of examples, but the company that I work for, I actually look up accounts and see if they're already a customer. And I do this by looking at the monthly reoccurring revenue. So that is the amount of regular and predicted income a company expects to receive every month. So that's that, that revenue. Next, we have onboarding. Onboarding is a set of actions or processes of introducing a new client with a service or product, setting up an account and introducing the client with their point of contact at a company. So, for example, the company that I work with, depending on what kind of hosting that you get, will depend on how long your onboarding process would be. So, for example, if you get a dedicated server, then you will have a point of contact assigned to your account that will help you get onboarded for like 30 to 60 days. Because with larger accounts, they need more time to actually get migrated and get their team on board, get, user IDs and things like that for that account. Like, for example, when I worked for the government and, the project that I was on, it was for a financial software or financial budgeting software, right? And it's for the VA. So of course there's, Veterans Affairs. There's a lot of people that use their service. And so it literally took us about 2 years to get everybody onboarded. So that all depends on how big that deal is. Next, we have opportunities, which is a qualified lead that is a good fit for your solution. So you have an SDR. I like how they put that, but an SDR has to qualify this person as someone who has the need and the ability to purchase. So that is essentially my job. I'm an SDR. My job is to qualify leads, that would be a good fit for your solution, and I make the opportunity, aka I schedule the appointment between that qualified lead and the account executive. Okay, next we have outbound sales. Outbound sales is opposite from inbound sales. When you think outbound sales, think about you reaching out. Inbound is them coming to you. So outbound sales is a cold call, cold email, social selling with the goal of initiating contact with a perceived client and ultimately closing the deal. So this is more so business development representative. Their job is to reach out to, cold call 100 people a day, send out maybe 50 cold emails, and reach out to people, maybe 50 people on LinkedIn. So huge, that's a whole nother ball game. Okay, next we have point of contact, which is a person or a department within a company that the client can reach out to with any specific questions or specific requests. So this is very, very important in tech sales because a lot of the software that is being sold at these tech companies are expensive, guys. They're not your average just pay $10 a month. Like, no. I've seen some I've seen some deals that close for over 10K a month. So if you're spending that much money with a tech company, you need to make sure that you have a point of contact, somebody that is assigned to your account that you can reach out to that will help you with any questions, comments, or concerns, and if you need specific requests. Next, we have a profit margin, which a profit margin is a ratio of profitability that reveals how much money a company usually makes, and is the amount by which the revenue from the sales exceeds the cost. So how much money are they making? To calculate the profit margin, you need to divide the gross profit. You need to divide the gross profit, which is the revenue cost of goods sold, by the actual revenue. So that way you're able to see your profit margin. Okay, next we have prospects, which is a list of names and contact information in some type of list, data, or CRM. Prospects. In my personal opinion, I feel as though prospects are the same thing as leads, but they're not. They're just a list of names and contact information in some type of list, database, or CRM. Okay, referrals or referral. Referral is a method of generating new leads from someone that refers a potential client to you. So don't sleep on the referrals, guys, because I like to think behind every prospect or every deal close is a referral. And there's nothing more powerful than word of mouth. So it's important to know what referrals is. If your company doesn't have a referral program, you should convince them to get a referral program because that will bring in more clientele. I know the company that I work for, they have a great referral program and they have a partnership program too. Okay, next is return on investment, a ROI, which shows the effectiveness of the initial investment, and it is a ratio between the net profit and the cost of investment. So this is really, really important, especially for tech sales, because you want to make sure that the product or service that you are offering is worth the return on investment. So they're actually getting their money's worth and they're able to increase their revenue based off of using your service. Okay, speaking of revenue, revenue is the amount of money that one business generates in a specific time period which can be yearly, quarterly, monthly, just depending on the nature of the company. Next, we have SaaS, which is simply an acronym for software as a service. So essentially, that's what tech sales is. Most of the time, you're selling SaaS products, which is software, which in my opinion, SaaS products are a little bit more difficult to sell because it's not like a physical thing. It's not like a phone, right? It's a software. And so the reason why tech sales is so lucrative because you have to convince a prospect or a lead to want to buy your product or service. To want to buy your service in this case. And it's much harder to convince somebody, especially if they can't physically see what you're selling, right? So then it just comes to understanding the software that you're selling and how it can benefit that person, that company. Okay, next we have sales acceleration. Sales acceleration, in my opinion, it's very similar to sales engagement, which is right. Oh, wait, no, I guess they don't have sales engagement. Essentially, they're the same thing. Anyways, sales acceleration is speeding up the sales process by using different tools and technology to boost productivity and effectiveness. So one way that we use sales acceleration is by utilizing SalesLoft. SalesLoft is essentially a tool that my company uses in order to follow a sales cadence and reach out to customers just maybe twice a week, 3 times a week to nurture that relationship. Next, we have sales automation, which is a process of automating sales workflow by using a software or a online tool, and it can help simplify, speed up, and streamline your sales process. Sales cadence is a determined sequence of sales activity and frequency at which a sales team interacts with a lead. So every company has different cadences. I know the one that I was taught in Course Career was just the basic, like what that sales cadence would look like. However, when I got hired with the company that I work for right now, we do utilize sales cadence. However, our sales cadence is a little different. So what you're going to notice is as long as you know what a sales cadence is and you have an idea of how it would be structured, you're good. Sales cycle. Sales cycle is a predictability or predictable sequence and stages that a company goes through as they sell their product or service. All companies, from what I know, all companies have a sales cycle. It's also known as a sales process. So, like for example, when you make an opportunity in Salesforce, it will let you know which stage that you're on. So it will let you know, for the company that I work for, we have the research, and then we have the actual outreach, and then we have the discovery call, and then if they bought the product or service, and if we essentially won or lost that deal. So it depends on what company that you work for, but essentially all tech companies should have a sales cycle that shows what stage that deal is on. So that way you kind of know, okay, this one is in the 0 pre-qualified stage, while this one is already in stage 2 when they're talking about how much money they're going to be spending and things like that. So that just depends on what company you end up working for. Okay, next we have sales demo. Sales demo is an event that serves as a showcase of the product or service that the company is selling. Each company is different. From what I see with the company that I work for, I've only seen a couple sales demos because a lot of the customers or leads that we get, they already know what the software service is. So it's not like we have to tell them. They know. But most companies are not like that. Most companies are reaching out to people and trying to show them, hey, this is our product and our service. Because to be honest, a lot of tech companies are startup companies. They're very new. Okay. So next we have a sales development representative. Kind of already talked about that up here. Wow, we went over a lot of, okay, but I kind of talked about that in business development representative. Okay, so sales development representative is focused on prospecting and finding new sales opportunity. Now, I want to add on to that. A sales development representative is more so in charge of inbound. They're in charge of taking calls, answering chats, qualifying leads, and passing those leads to account executive. Mind you, a business development representative is in charge of the outbound. So instead of taking calls, they're making calls. They're making email, like cold emails. But essentially, both the sales development and business development goal is to set up appointments for the account executive to essentially have the discovery call, do the demo walkthrough, and close the deal. Okay, we're almost done, guys. We're almost done. Okay, next we have sales enablement. Sales enablement is providing sales professionals with the necessary tech and necessary tools and technology and training and other resources in order for them to have better performance at customer engagement. So for example, the company that I work for, we have a lot of different trainings on what is effective and what will help you perform better. Like I said, each company is different. That's going to be dependent on what kind of company that you decide to work for. But the good companies, they have sales enablement because they want their sales reps to be able to perform at their highest and have all the necessary resources in order to do so. So that way they can say, hey, buddy, there's no excuse why you are performing the way you are. You have all the resources that you need. You have all the necessary tools, all the necessary training and technology to perform very, very well. Okay, next we have the sales funnel. The sales funnel is a visual representation of the sales process and defines stages that every potential client goes through as they are moving towards the final decision. So I like to think of the sales funnel like this. And as you can see, the top of the funnel is the biggest. So for example, as you're going down the sales funnel, your number is going to decrease. So let's say, for example, if I'm running a marketing campaign and I want maybe 1,000 impressions, that's going to be the top. Out of those 1,000 impressions, I'm going to get maybe 500 people that are actually going to put in some form of information, or I may, or just think about it as if I'm calling 100 people a day, I think that'll be better as a sales. If I'm calling 100 people a day, then if my conversions are good, if I have high conversion rates, then I should be able to talk to 50 people, right? So that would be the next level of the funnel. So I should be able to talk to 50 people. And out of those 50 people, I should be able to get 25 people to agree to a meeting. And as a result of those 25 people, maybe I'll get 10 people to actually follow through and show up to the meeting, because there are people, they will lie, they will ghost you, and they'll say, hey, yeah, I want a meeting, and then they never show up to the meeting. And then you try reaching out to them and they just ghost you. Hey, those are the harsh realities of a sales development representative or being in sales. But so out of those 25, then maybe 10 of them actually show up to the meeting. talk to the account executive, and out of those 10 people, 5 people ultimately sign up for the software. So what I'm trying to say is as you're going through the stages, that number is going to decrease because you're going to get 80% of your revenue from 20% of the people that you reach out to. So that 20% of people is going to make up 80% of your revenue, which is the 80-20 law. That applies directly to sales. So just the sales funnel kind of gives you that visual representation of what that sales process would actually look like. Okay. Next, we have the sales pipeline. Is a visual representation of a sales process and stage for each individual prospect. So essentially, the pipeline is pretty much the sales funnel, right? I can make another video talking about the sales funnel, but the pipeline is the sales funnel. But only difference is it just goes from looking like a funnel to looking like an actual, like line, like pipeline. So as a sales development representative or business development representative, your job is to move them down the pipeline. Your job is to move them from research, right? Because you want to research, and then outreach, and then call. So essentially what it should look like is you have research, which is the first one, outreach, meeting, set up that meeting, and then the discovery call, the demo, and then the closing. That's pipeline. Okay, so next we have sales prospecting, which is a process of finding and identifying new prospect clients using different outbound methods. So that's cold calling, sales, social selling, and advertisement. So what you're going to notice, guys, about these terminologies, like I said, they're all connected. Now, it may feel very redundant, but it's all part of the sales development terminology. So it's important to know each one of these. Don't just skip it because you're like, oh, well, that sounds like the other thing you just talked about. I promise you, they're all kind of alike, but there are little differences. So sales prospecting, as you can see, that's outbound method. That's not an inbound method. Sales prospecting is you actively going out there and identifying new prospects. So that's through cold email, advertising, all those type of things, cold calling. Next, we have sales qualified leads, which is known as SQL, SQL, that's what I call it, which is a potential client that already met all the necessary criteria and is forwarded to an account executive to close the deal. So depending on what company that you work for, some people, like, for example, the company that I work for, I get a commission based off of the amount of leads that I get to have a meeting with an account executive. This terminology is sales. The terminology that we're looking at right now is sales qualified lead, which is essentially kind of the same thing, but the only difference is, actually, there's no difference. I'm confusing my own self. Don't want to confuse you. Okay, a sales qualified lead is a potential client that already met all the necessary criteria and they're getting forwarded for a meeting with account executive. I don't want to confuse you because it's a lot. Okay, scraping data. It's an extraction of large amounts of data from websites. So going back to the company that I work for, we do have a tool that we use in order to get a lot of data at once about different websites. And it lets us know everything that we need to know about that website in order for me to qualify it as a potential client. Segmentation is a process of dividing a large market or a contact list into smaller segments based off of different criteria. So we have location, company size, and revenue. Me personally, when I think of segmentation, I think about marketing. Like, for example, like demographic. So this is based off of where you live, what your company size is, how much revenue you have in this case, because this is for sales development. But for like marketing standpoint, when I get advertised certain when I get marketed certain advertisement, I'm thinking, okay, what kind of segmentation that they do in the background? Is it because of my age that I got marketed this advertisement? Or is it because my complexion? Or is it just simply based off of what I was searching on my search engine? So I guess that's just the marketing in me. Next, we have social selling. This is a sales tactic that involves using social media as a sales channel. So we have sales development or SDR engagement. Same thing. It's a sales development representative engagement, and they create relationships with prospects by probing or figuring out their needs and providing relevant and valuable insight. So that's more so on the BDR side of things. That's more so on the outreaching. Top of the funnel. Remember earlier when I showed y'all my little cool hand funnel? So this part right here is top of the funnel. Okay, so top of the funnel is a term that refers to the top of the sales or marketing funnel, where all the prospects go through a qualification process from whether it's inbound or outbound. So just think about all the clients that you're going to have. They all had to go through top of the funnel. Think about any time you bought a software online, right? At one point, you were a prospect on top of that funnel, and you went through the whole entire sales process and ultimately bought that product or service. Same thing for when you're buying groceries in the store. That piece of grocery that you bought from the store already had over 1,000 people looking at that piece of grocery. It just so happened you're the one that looked at it, you thought about it, you put it in your cart, and you purchased it. Same thing. Okay, so next we have unique selling point proposition, which is the unique feature of a business that sets it apart from its competitor. This is very, very important because this will help you when you're selling. It's vice versa. So just like every company should have a competitive advantage in what they offer that their competitors doesn't. But not only that, you need to know what your unique selling point is about your company. So for example, the company that I work for, we have very, very, very good customer support, like way better than all the other hosting companies. That's our unique selling point. Okay. And that's something that a lot of hosting companies just don't have. And another thing is the company that I work for, they actually have Native American speaking customer support people that are, I'm not going to go into that, but that's a unique selling point. For whatever company that you work for, you need to know what your unique selling point is. Also, when you start getting interviews, you need to think about what sets you apart from your competition, right? So what are some of your personal or professional unique selling points that set you aside? And really think about that. Next, we have vertical, which is a specific segment of the market where a business targets only specific industries, sectors, or niches. So, for example, this is the last example I'm going to give. For example, we do have website verticals, right? Because there are different type of websites out there. Like you have your institutional or university websites, right? You have your e-commerce websites. You have just your strict, just like blog websites, right? And so we do have a list of specific websites in different industries and what kind of website falls into different niches. I'm laughing because all of this is so relevant, guys. Do not sleep on these sales development terms because you're going to need to know all of these in order to get a job in tech sales. So if you found this video helpful, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment. That's the least that you can do. And then also, if you want a copy of this, I'm going to leave this in the link down below too. So with that being said, I really enjoyed making this video for you or for y'all. And I hope that you really, really enjoyed it. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. And with that being said, I'll see you later. Peace.